Well, hello, and welcome to another lesson of the Discover Headless Tech course. I am Marcelo Lewin, the Headless Creator. As always, you can get a hold of me right there, Marcelo at headlesscreator.com. Feel free to send me any questions, comments, an email with your ideas. I'd love to hear from you. So today I have a special guest presenter directly from Italy. His name is Matteo Frana, and he's the co-founder of React Bricks. And we're going to talk about what is React Bricks. He's going to show us. He's even going to show us how to create these bricks, and you're going to learn what are these bricks anyway. But before we get started with the presentation, I'm going to go ahead and bring Matteo in here. Matteo,
Hi
welcome.
everybody.
How do you say welcome in Italian?
Benvenuto.
Benvenuto.
Benvenuti.
Benvenuti. Okay. Benvenuti then. So I'm glad to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And so before we get started in the presentation, we'd love to learn a little bit about you. You're the founder or co-founder of React Bricks. But before we even get to that today, how did you get into technology?
Well, I started by copying code on my Commodore 64
Oh, I love that.
Yes, from the Commodore instructions.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started really programming when I was 10 on an IBM 8088 in
Oh my
GW
gosh, yeah.
Basic. Yes, you had 20 megabytes of disk and 640 kilobytes of RAM sold to the motherboard.
Uh-huh.
Yes, in GW Basic. And then, well, I started developing websites in 1996 when I was 17. And well, when things were much easier than now, you had just HTML, no CSS,
Right.
no JavaScript. It came a year later.
You had the blink tag. Do you remember the blink tag?
The blink tag, yes. Of course, blink tag. And you just uploaded your HTML to an FTP, no transpilation, dependency injection. And it was easier.
Yeah, totally. So you brought back memories with the 8088 because I used to build these compatible, back then they had them compatible computers, and I used to build them and I used to plug in the little chips, the memory RAM, you would plug them in. It wasn't boards, it was literal one chip at a time that you do it. So it brought back memory. So I'm a little bit older than you, and so I go way back to the Commodore VIC-20 and the 8086, then 8088, then 8286, 8386. You know,
Yes.
People were probably like younger, going like, "What is he talking about?" But you know, so great. So you got into computers. Obviously, you have a passion for computers and development. How did you get into development and into React, and what made you create React Bricks, which we're going to get into soon?
Well, yes. Let's say that after the first period when the first web application were in CGI, in Perl, I created a web application using ASP, then ASP.NET. And then when the world was going towards the separation of concerns between the front end and the back end, I started programming with Angular on the front end and creating a back end in .NET. And then we came to the current stack, which is React for the front end and Node.js for the back end. And well, at the end of 2019, since we create both web applications and sometimes some websites for customers that ask us, and we were using Gatsby together with WordPress as a headless CMS.
Right.
But I was not satisfied by either my experience as a developer and our customers' experience editing content, because we wanted to be sure that the users won't be able to put the red text over green background in WordPress, so we didn't leave the blank page, but we used the advanced custom fields of WordPress. And so users were back filling in gray forms instead of editing in a visual way like you can do on a blank WordPress page. And really the same happens when you use a headless CMS. You are just filling in gray forms, and that is not much inspiring for the content creator. And so I thought that leveraging React, we could create something that had all the advantages of headless CMSs from a tech point of view and a developer experience point of view, but that it had also the great user experience that you find on no-code tools like Wix, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the lockdown, and so I had also more time to experiment with this
Right.
idea. And so the first MVP for React Bricks was
And here
born
we are
at
today.
that time.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay, well, you're going to get into React. So I usually like to end my interviews before we start the presentation with something more personal. And everybody knows I'm a movie fan. Obviously, I have, you know, the movie theater, the home theater here behind me. So usually I ask, what's your favorite movie? But what's your favorite genre? Do you like comedy? Do you like drama? What kind of genre do you prefer?
Well, really, I like classics. If I should choose one film, I love, for example, Denzel Washington and Tom Hanks. So maybe Philadelphia is one of my favorites.
Oh, that's a great movie. That's a fantastic movie, definitely. Well, as you can tell behind me, I'm more into comedies, but I still like I like everything. I like everything. So, all right, Matteo, let's go ahead and show your screen now. That way, everybody can see your presentation. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go on mute. But if anybody has any questions, you have a chat. Please type them in. Matteo, if I have questions, I'll jump in. But otherwise, I'm gonna go on mute, and it's all yours, sir.
Okay, perfect. Before showing you some code and creating a brick, I'd like to give you some context. And so what is React Bricks? Well, React Bricks is a CMS with visual editing, and it is based on React components. So React Bricks is both a React library that you use to create your content blocks, and we'll do it today, and it is also a software as a service where the content is persisted. Why we created it, we told you something already, but the main idea is that headless CMSs are great for developers, but they are not great for content creators who are faced with gray forms. And we wanted to show something that had all the advantages of the headless CMSs, so the coupled APIs, the ability to use the technology that you want on the front end, but also the advantages of the visual editing. And React Bricks so has API as a service, like a headless. The content blocks are just React components, so you can use Next.js, Gatsby, your favorite React frameworks, and it has a best-in-class visual editing experience. How we created it? Well, the main concept is that of visually editable content blocks that we call bricks. And they are just React components where in the JSX you use React Bricks visual editing components like text, rich text, image. We'll see them in a moment. And for the property that you cannot directly edit in a visual way, you provide a schema that maps your props to sidebar controls. And well, so we have this design system made by bricks, but these bricks need to be shared between the admin interface and the front end, because of course what you see in the admin interface is what you must get on the front end website. And our idea here is to put the admin interface inside of the front end project. So you have your Gatsby or Next.js project, and inside of it there is a admin folder with the admin interface, and you host it yourself. So you host the front end website with the folder where the admin lives. And in this way, having the bricks shared between the front end and the admin is just a matter of importing the same module in both. So let's create a brick. Now I will show you my this website, and this is a website that I just scaffolded using the React Bricks CLI. I chose the starter with the Next.js and Tailwind, and I chose to have some default content loaded. That is what you see here. The content blocks that you see are the one from React Bricks UI, which is an open source project where we created some pre-made blocks using TypeScript and Tailwind, and they are already responsive and dark mode compatible, and you can use them as a reference. So now I can go to the admin interface. I can click this edit content here, but since I am already logged in, I can also click the pencil on the right bottom corner that you see here. So I can navigate the website, and when I want to edit the page that I see, I just click on the pencil. Okay. This is the React Bricks editor. On the left, you see the list of pages. And if I click on the content, you see that there is this pink border around this block of content. This is a brick. So here you see that I can directly edit. So welcome Headless Creators. And so I can change the text as if I were in Word or Pages. I can also apply styles. So for example, I can apply bold here or link, and you define what the user will be able to do in a text or rich text, because you can say that you want to be able to have lists, headings, code, etc. Here I just chose to have bold and links for this content block. And on the right, you see that I can change properties using these controls in the sidebar. So for example, I can change the text gradient, I can change the title size, I can open this layout menu and change the background color. But everything that you see here on the right is defined by this brick schema. So I defined in this hero unit brick that I wanted a layout collapsible group with a background, border top, border bottom, and a title collapsible group with this select control and this radio control. Of course, all of these props that you see on the right becomes props for my React component that I can use to conditionally render my component. If I go to another component, like this, to another brick, you see that the interface changes because, of course, this other brick defines its own schema.
Question for you on the schema.
Yes.
Can multiple components share the same schema? So in other words, let's say like you have the hero at the top, right? But you have a different version of the hero, like the layout is completely different, but all the properties are pretty much the same. Can they share the same schema, or every component has its own schema?
Well, you cannot directly share the same schema, but because one thing that there is in the schema is the unique name for the brick. But of course, you can, in your code, have a module that exports all of the property of the schema, but for the brick name, and so you can import it and spread it inside of your schema. You can create a schema fragment if you want, and reuse it.
Okay, so in essence, you can share it, kind of.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. And well, in this brick here, we can see that there is an image, and I'd like to show you what happened when I click on the image. You see that I can upload an image from my computer. Let's upload an image of the React Bricks theme, and I can crop it. And when you define in the image component from React Bricks, you can also set a fixed aspect ratio so that your editor will be forced to crop using a defined aspect ratio. I can give an alternate text and a SEO-friendly name that will be part of the URL for this image for SEO purposes. And now the image has been uploaded to React Bricks servers, and all the responsive optimized images are created from React Bricks, and the images are served from a global CDN. So with React Bricks, you don't have long build times when you have many images, because all the processing of the images is done at upload time, not at build time. And in this way, you don't need any external service like ImageX or Cloudinary, because all the optimization is done by React Bricks. And on the front end, you use the image tag from React Bricks. So even switching from a framework like Next.js to Gatsby is a matter of minutes, because you don't have to convert their image component. You just use the image component from React Bricks. It works everywhere, and it is already optimized. So there is also another concept that is interesting, that it's the ability to have nested bricks, so bricks inside of bricks. In particular, for this text image brick, you see that there is this add new on the right, and they can add, for example, a new feature. Let's add 2 features. You see that they appear here, and when I click, I can edit the text. So let's say great for devs, and I can change the prop for this brick that is a list item brick. So I go to the other, great for content creators. I can give the green color, and you see that I can move them up or down. So you can nest bricks inside of bricks. I'd like to show you, let's save, that I didn't enable the autosave, so let's save manually. And one thing that I'd like to show you quickly is that there is this stories tab. Here you can save a configuration for a brick so that you can reuse it later. So if there is an interesting configuration that you may reuse in the future, you can save it as a story. While in the page tab, there is the more CMS part. So all the property for the page, its visibility, you can schedule, publish in the future, you can lock the structure, there are all the page attributes and SEO meta tags, etc. And you can also add custom fields to a page, but that is out of the scope of this lesson that is about bricks.
Quick question on the stories. So the story
Yes.
is, if you have, for example, this hero that you want to use in multiple places, you save it as a story, and then you can use this particular hero with the content anywhere else. Is that what it is?
Yes, yes. For example, let's do it. Here we have this brick with the React Bricks team photo. I can save it as a story. Let's say that this is the text image RB theme, and I save it in this way. Let's say just RB theme, because we are in text image.
Right.
Okay, and now if I let's go to the About Us page, and here I want to add
a brick, right?
Yes, I add a text image.
Got it. Okay. And then select the story.
Yes, I go to stories. I put RB team.
So it'll show the stories.
When you hover, you already see what will be put
right
there. And when I click, okay, the same props are applied to the text image.
That's very cool. And it's single source of truth, I'm imagining. So if you change discover the dashboard to invite users, you remove new. In the other page where you're using the story, it would remove new as well, right? So it's single source of truth.
Yes.
Okay, it's not a copy. You're not copying it. It's actually a reference to the story.
No, sorry. No, sorry. It is a copy. Yes, it is a copy. I think that it is more safe, because what you do, it's like a cookie cutter. So
sure.
You reuse the props that you have on your story, and you put them in a page. If by accident another user which has the permission will delete the story, it won't affect the content that you
everywhere
have
else
online. It would be a bit risky to do that in that way. So really, it's just a cookie cutter way to have some content pre-made if you reuse it in the future.
So we could change the image here and it won't affect the other places.
Yes, it won't affect the other. Yes, no.
Okay. I'll make a suggestion. I want a feature update. I want to be able to have single source of truth, because then I can control what templates they can use. For example, I could create, for example, here, right, a banner that, hey, you got to use this everywhere and you can't change it. So
Yes.
that would be a good thing.
Yes. Well, we have in mind to have to create these entities that are single
Right.
source of truth. At the moment, yes, in let's say a week, we'll be out with a feature which is external content, and so from an external source of proof like a headless CMS or
Right.
Airtable or what you want, you will be able to put content inside of React Bricks,
Got it.
and you can also choose to have it that the source of truth is the headless, or that you can override the content of the headless, and so it's very flexible, and you will be able to have a single external source of truth.
Right.
But in an upcoming version, we'll have also our entities that will be
very cool. Alrighty.
Truth. Okay, so I'd like to now show you the code, but before, just one thing that I'd like to show you is that there is this playground here where you can see all of your bricks. So for example, this text image, testimonial, and FAQ, and the newsletter subscribe. These are the bricks from React Bricks UI, so the open source bricks. And this is a sort of documentation of your design system too. And you can play with them and see what is in the design system. Then there is the settings tab. Here I am logged in as an admin, so I can change props for the app. For example, I can change the app name. I can add the new languages. Let's add the Italian language, change the default language, set the production or staging build hook. So that if you give permission to your editors to trigger redeploy in production or in staging, they will be able to just click on a button. The editor will just see these buttons, deploy to staging or deploy to production, and they will be able to put the content live on the website after they edited the content. So let's save. And now if I go to the editor, you see that there is this Italian translation missing. I can click and create a translation for this page. And so instead of about us, let's say chi siamo. From now on, these two translations will be completely independent. So here I can change everything. I can change the blocks. I can change the style. It's just copied the content from the default language, but then I can change everything for this translation. And now if I go to page, you see that I can delete the whole page or just this translation. But well, let's see the code. As I said, this is an Next.js project, so you see the pages folder. Inside of the pages folder, you see the admin folder, as I told you, where there is the admin interface, and you see that it's just a thin wrapper around React Bricks exported admin components. So the editor, there is this admin, which is an authentication layer, but essentially you don't have to touch this part. You find here the admin that you will host together with the website. As for the front-end pages, I show you this slug, which is the catch-all page in a way, and you see that in the JSX we use the page viewer from React Bricks, to which we pass the page. The page comes from the props, and the props are set by these get static props here, where we use the fetch page from React Bricks to fetch the page content. Okay, let's see now the interesting part, which is the React Bricks folder. In the React Bricks folder, you have the React Bricks configuration. This is where you can put your logo for the editing interface, and you can change many environment settings of React Bricks. what we are interested in right now is these bricks. Here is where you can put your content blocks. They come from the bricks folder, so let's open it. And you see that we are importing the website bricks from React UI. These are all the pre-made bricks. In a real project, you will want to comment these out, these website bricks. And then we are adding a hero unit brick that you see here on the left is an example brick. Now, what we want to do is create a new brick that it is the team brick. We want to show the team with a photo of the member, and for each member we want the photo, the name, the role, and social icons. So I already created a team brick, and now I'm going to add it. So let's import it. I import team from team and I add it here. Okay. Now, if I go back and I try to add a new brick, you see that there is this team brick here. It is under the lesson group because I show you how I did it in the team brick, in the schema of the team brick. I show you immediately. There is this category, and this is very useful to categorize your bricks. And in this way, the team brick stands out, and it's simple to work with it. So I add the team brick, and you see that there is a title, our team, that I can change. And there is a description that I can change, and I can also apply a highlight style, and you see that it becomes pink. So this is the visual editing, and on the right from the sidebar I can change the background color from white to light green. Where you see here members is where I want to add the members for the team. So let's go back to the code. And let's see how this brick is made. First of all, you see that it is a React component. The TypeScript type is not just a React functional component, but is brick from React bricks, but it is just a React functional component with a schema static property, as I told you. So everything in React bricks is fully typed. React bricks is written in TypeScript, so it's very easy to work with it if you use TypeScript. And then you see that in the JSX, we have this text here, which is the title for the brick. And you see that the text has a prop name, a placeholder, and a render function. This is the render function that will render our title. Below, there is this rich text, which is the one for the description that you saw in gray. And here it works in the same way, but we have also the allowed features. Here is where we can choose what features we want to allow for our content creator. So now there is highlight, but I can also add from types rich text features. You see that I can add headings, bold, code, link, order list, an order list. Let's add, for example, italic here. And you can provide your own render function for everything. So, for example, you see that the highlighted text is pink because we have this render highlight function. And if I want to override the render bold, I can, and it's just a simple render function. So Rubrix is really very, very flexible. You can also create your own plugin for the rich text. Is really made to be tweaked to do everything you need to do.
So if you don't overwrite the render function, it'll do whatever the default is. And if you want to overwrite it with
okay. And the default is quite is really For bold, it is just a
Right.
tag. The Unix strange is this highlight. In this case,
Sure.
it's just create a span with the class name of highlight, but
Yeah.
so it has a good default for everything, for
Right.
order list, and you can override everything if you want.
So question for you, and we don't have to show this today, it's just to know if we can or not, but under allowed features, you showed that you have your default list. You have whatever you allow for
Yes.
the rich, right? But do you allow the ability to create my own
Yes.
feature in there that is not even a part of your list?
Yes, to do that, you, instead of importing the rich text, you import the rich text extendable, and in that case, the interface is different. You don't have allowed features and the renders function, but you have a plugins array. So there you can import the plugins from Rubrics, which are highlights, bold,
Right.
list, etc. And you can so you can have all these plugins pre-made from Rubrics, but you can create your own plugin with its button, its shortcut, and you can really tweak everything at low level. So we use the editor Slate behind the scenes, and you're able to tweak everything at a Slate level if you want. So
That makes a lot of sense.
it's really very powerful.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. So that way we don't have to wait for you to make upgrades to the rich text editor. We can have our own custom ones if we're in a company, right? Basically.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
And here is where we'll put our members. One thing, and then there is the schema, and in the schema you have the name for these bricks. So Headless Creator team. You have the category, the tags for to search bricks. We have customers with more than 100 bricks, so it's very useful to categorize and be able to search through them. The label. There's the get default props function, and that returns the default props when you add a new brick of this type. And then there are the side edit props. Here is where you map the prop that you want to receive to sidebar controls. So you saw that we could change the background color from white to green, and this is because we have this side edit prop, which the name is BG color. We have a label, we have a type, which is a select, and for a select type, we can display it as a drop down, or as a radio, or as a color picker. So for a select, we need options. Options are just value label objects. Just because we are choosing colors, in the value we need to have this color property. This is the one that is used by the colored palette that allows to choose the color. And then you can add whatever you want. Since we are using Tailwind, here I added this class name and I use it in the component to set the background color. So you see that here in the JSX, I'm just taking this BG color prop and I get the class name from the BG color to add a Tailwind class to our component. So one thing that I'd like to do here is to add the ability to set the vertical padding, which I think that is very useful because you don't know where this brick will end up in the page, and sometimes it's useful to tweak the vertical padding. So let's do it. Let's add a new side edit prop. The name is, let's say, padding Y, and then we want to have a label that is vertical padding, and we need a type, and the type is from the types of bricks, side edit prop type, and here you see all the type of controls that you can have. So Boolean, date, image, number, range, select, text area, and you see that there is also this custom, because in the sidebar you can have your custom component. If I chose custom, then I could give a component, and this is a value on change interface, so that if you don't like the color picker from React Bricks, you can have your own color picker. So this time I'm not choosing a custom component, but just a range. And for the range, you can set range options, which you can imagine is just min, max, and step. Okay, so here we have created this new side edit prop of type range, and we have set the properties for this range. Now, to use it, we need to go to our components. Let's add it to the interface. So padding y, let's say that it is a number, and we extract it from the props. So padding y. And now to use it, let's say that here we create a style, and we want to have a padding top, which is our padding y in a unit of rem, and the same thing we can do for the padding bottom. Okay, so we took the prop and we are using it in our JSX. So let's see if everything is okay. I reload the page, and so now when I click to add a new block, I add a theme, and now you see that you have the background color, and you have also this vertical padding here that I can change to adjust the vertical padding. So we added a new prop that is editable via the sidebar. So a thing that it's better to do is to provide also a good default for these properties. So let's say that by default, the padding y is 2. Okay, so now let's see, let's create the team member so that we can add a team members to our team. Let's go back to our index. I already created a team member brick, so I can import it. So let's import team member, and let's add another brick in our wall. Team member. Okay, so now let's go back and let's see if we can see this new brick. Okay, when I add a new block, now you see that you have both team and team member. By the way, when you hover over a brick, you see a preview. Now I click team member to add it, and you see that a team member has a photo that I can click and upload. It has a name that is editable and a role that is editable too. And then on the right, I can set a Twitter URL. And now the Twitter icon appears with a link to the URL that I entered and a LinkedIn URL. And you see that there is no validation now on these props, but we'll fix it later. Now, a thing that we can do, for example, is add Facebook, or since we are developers, let's add a GitHub URL. So let's add a new prop on this component. Let's go back to our VS Code, and let's see the team member brick. You see that the interface for this component has a Twitter URL and a LinkedIn URL, and we use an image component from React Bricks. And here you see that we are fixing the aspect ratio to 1 because we want square images that becomes round for our team members. Here on the image, I can set also a max width. This is used to direct the responsive image creator. If I know that the max width will be 300 pixels, React Bricks will create the maximum size at 2 times 300 pixels for the Retina displays. Then there is a text, now we know it, and that is for the name, and another text for the role. Then, if I have either a Twitter URL or a LinkedIn URL, this div is rendered, and then we have the 2 icons linked with a link to the URL that we entered. How we enter this Twitter and LinkedIn URL? Using sidebar controls. So if we go to the schema, we see that we have the name, the category, the label, the default props, and this is the placeholder that you have for the placeholder image for a team member. And in the side edit props, we have just two simple text props that are our two URLs. So if we want to add a new social link, we can, let's start by importing a font awesome icon for GitHub. So a GitHub, we add it on our interface. So GitHub URL, and then we import it. URL. Okay. And now we just add it here, GitHub URL. Okay. And we copy this LinkedIn URL here. And we have GitHub. And of course, we want to show our GitHub icon. So now the JSX is okay. If we give this GitHub URL property, it will render our GitHub icon. But now we have to, first of all, let's set a sensible default, which is the empty string. And then we add a new prop. We just copy this LinkedIn here. We say that it is a GitHub URL, the label is GitHub URL, and it is of type text. Okay, so let's go back. And now, if I add the team member, you see that we have three properties on the right. I can add the Twitter URL, a LinkedIn URL, and the GitHub URL. And when I add the GitHub URL, you see that there is the GitHub icon that link to the GitHub URL that we entered. Now let's have some validation on these props. So here on the side of this prop, there is the validate function. And it is a function which has as a first argument the value, so in this case the Twitter URL, and as a second argument all the props, so that you can perform cross-field validation. Now we just need a simple function, so we take the value, and well, if there is no value, it is valid. We need to return, if we return true, the prop is valid. So if there is no value, it's okay. If there is a value, we need to check that the value starts with, let's say, HTTPS. We can say HTTPS twitter.com, but in this way we can recycle it for the other ones. And I can also say that if this is not valid, I return a string. So you can both return true, and it is valid, false, it is invalid, but with the no error message. If you return a string, it is invalid with the error message that you return. This is something that many forms library do in this way. And so now let's check. Reload. Okay, let's add a new team member. And now you see that if I write something gibberish, it's not valid. If I put HTTPS, yes, now it's valid. Okay. So, well, we have our team member brick, and we are satisfied with our team member brick. Now we want to add this team member to our team brick. So let's do it. Let's go to the code. And then let's go to the team brick. Now, to add a repeated a group of repeated bricks, we can use the repeater items property, and it is just an array of all the bricks type that are repeatable inside of this brick. So we give a name which is members, we give an item type, and the item type should match our team member brick type. So if we go to team member, we see that the name of this brick is Headless Creator team member. So we copy it. Okay, we can provide also an item label. If we don't provide it, it takes the default label for the team member, that it is team member, but we want to our interface to say add new member, not add new team member. So I can say that the label is member for this repeater. And I can also provide minimum and maximum numbers. If I set a minimum, by default, it will be padded with a minimum number of default setting of the team member, and I can set a max number. For example, let's say that I want 3 members at the maximum. Okay, now that I have this repeater items array, I can use it inside of our JSX using a repeater component from React Bricks. It is very easy. It is just an attribute, which is the prop name, and the prop name should match the name that I gave here, so members. Let's close the tag, and let's see if it works. So let's add our team. And now you see that it seems like before, but there is this add new here. This is because we have at least an item inside of the repeater items. And you see that we can add a new member. Let's do it. And you see that now we have a member inside of our team member, of our team, sorry. So let's add a new one, and let's add another one. And you see that now I cannot add any more members because I defined that I wanted at maximum 3 members. So let's try if everything works as expected. Let's add an avatar here and an avatar here and another one. And so let's say that she is Jane Doe and is a backend developer, and is Tom and is a designer. So you see that we have a complete brick, which is all editable in a visual way, and you can add, remove members, and let's save this contact. And if we like this configuration, we can also save this as a story. There is just one last thing that I'd like to do. And since we have these team and team member bricks, I don't want the content creator to be able to add directly a team member, because it doesn't make sense. I just want him to see the team, and then inside of the team, I'd like him to or her to add a team member. So let's go to our code. And in the team member, I can just say hide from add menu true. In this way, the team member won't be directly usable by the content creator. And so now when I add a new brick, you see that we have just the team, and inside of the team, I can add team members.
So the team member is really a brick that is meant to only be used within another brick, so a nested brick.
Yes, you can use it in any number of bricks,
right,
but it cannot be used directly. This is useful because sometimes it really also for a CSS perspective, it is not directly usable,
right.
And so it's better to hide it from the interface.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, you can see it in the playground, so it is not hidden from the playground. So if we go to our team member, we can see it here and see the team, so that it is part of our design system as a brick, but the content creator cannot add it directly. So, well, I think that you have an idea of how you can create a visually editable content blocks, bricks inside of React bricks.
That was a really great overview, Matteo. And you know what? All the praying we did to the internet gods, it worked. So we had no internet problem. The reason I say that is because during rehearsal we had some internet issues, but it worked out. So, but fantastic presentation, Matteo. Thank you so much. That was a great overview.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
and you've
Marcelo.
answered all the questions. So if people want to get a hold of you, how can they do that? What contact information would you like to offer?
Oh, yes. You can see the React Bricks website at reactbricks.com. And one thing that I'd like to show you very, very quickly is
Sure.
that when you go on the React Bricks website, there is this Learn section where you have the tutorial, the full documentation, and a video tutorial. But the tutorial is, in my opinion, the best way to start. We put much effort both in the documentation and in this step-by-step tutorial. It is with gamification, so there are questions that you can answer, and as you answer question, you gain points, and then you have a final surprise. So it's really easy to get started, and you start from scratch, setting up a project from the CLI. You create bricks, nested bricks, and you see how to deploy on Vercel, on Netlify, how to invite editors using the React Bricks dashboard. So I really suggest to start from the tutorial, and of course the documentation is very long and very, let me say that we put much effort in
Extensive,
to have
yeah.
a good documentation. Yes.
Yeah,
It's really
definitely.
big. Yes.
Cool. All right, Matteo, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you for doing
Thank
a
you.
great presentation.
Thank you, Marcelo. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for another lesson of the Discover Headless Tech course. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned. This is the end of the week. Today's Friday, TGIF. But next week, of course, we'll have another set of lessons for you. So make sure you go to headlesscreator.com, get your free account over there, and you'll have access to this lesson, which will be available on demand in about an hour. But then you'll have access to everything else. So again, everybody, thank you so much. And until the next one, have a great one, everybody. Cheers.